Fans will spend hours arguing whether or not Madara could beat Hashirama, whether or not Sasuke is stronger than Naruto after Naruto lost Kurama, whether or not Itachi could take down the Akatsuki while holding back his coughing, but somehow the guy who literally handed out god powers like Oprah, handing out cars back in the 2000s, got reduced to, he had the Rinnegan, he was a Jubi Jinchuuriki, he was Kaguya's son. That's like saying a nuclear submarine is dangerous because it has a flashlight attached to it. Hagoromo wasn't nearly impossible to defeat because of one broken ability. He was nearly impossible to defeat because everything about him was broken at the same time, and it wasn't just raw power that made him so hard to beat, it was everything in totality. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video where your OBC, your original Boruto chief, is gonna break down why the Sage's Six Paths, at the height of his power, the tippy top of his power, given everything that we know, including information that will be new for anime-only fans of Naruto, why the Sage's Six Paths was near unstoppable. When people talk about the Sage's Six Paths and why he's so powerful, the conversation usually follows the exact same path. They mention that he was Kaguya's son. They mention he was the Jinchuuriki of the Ten Tails after fighting Kaguya for what the anime alludes to being months long of a battle. They bring up the Rinnegan and Six Paths power, Yin Yang release, the creation of all things jutsu, and maybe they'll even throw in the truth-seeking orbs just for good measure. None of that is wrong, but there's one part of Hagoromo's arsenal that almost always gets left out the discussion on why he's a matchup nightmare in the world of Naruto, which is nobody ever talks enough about his weapons, especially after the new lore we got following the end of Naruto's manga. Some ninja can use kunai or shuriken. Hagoromo has weapons that can literally reshape entire continents when fully unleashed, which he can easily do with the 8th tool of the Sage's Six Paths that we learn is called the Suiigu. If you've never heard of it before, don't feel bad. Most Naruto fans haven't. The Suiigu resembles a golden cane with a ring attached on the top, but calling it a fancy walking stick is like the biggest level of disrespect. I get in the Naruto modern day world, it is carried by the Prime Minister of Ridaku, who we saw in the Boruto anime version of the Sasuke Retsunden adaptation, but doing something like that is like calling Kurama an oversized fox. Inside the weapon is a portion of Hagoromo's chakra directly sealed inside of it, and it allows the user to produce near limitless amounts of water that make the jutsu that Kisame used on Team Guy in early part 2, where he covered the area, look like nothing more than a puddle. When it is fully unleashed, it can flood an entire nation, and when Hagoromo is used the way that he wanted it, it can make storms of rain fall across an entire country and produce rivers, and if need be, shoot out massive concentrated streams of water to protect the user, which the shape of the water can be changed at the whim of the user. Think about what that means. Hagoromo with one weapon could have submerged an entire continent underwater on a mere whim, but instead he chose to use it to have the weapon bring prosperity to a nation, because towards the end of his days, he just likes going there to spend time there. For centuries, this power was used as it was intended, to get the country through a drought, but by the time that Kakashi pulls up in Ridaku and fights the Prime Minister, it's used as a weapon, and Kakashi is lucky the person controlling it didn't have full mastery of it, or more importantly, it wasn't being wielded by someone with a comparable level of power as Kakashi. Otherwise, Kakashi would have died. According to the lore, the Suiigu, without proper control, can cause floods, but the Prime Minister wasn't able to get the most out of the weapon that it should have been capable of, and yet, despite that, a ninjutsu clash that was so powerful, it produced lightning storms and a cataclysm in rain, and it took all of Kakashi's chakra. Kakashi was barely able to take down the user of that weapon because of the Six Paths chakra in it. However, had Hagoromo been in possession of this weapon, just imagine someone with understanding of it and the chakra levels of a Ten Tails Jinchuuriki. It's game over at that point. The person he's fighting, they die, and the whole continent is extinct if he chooses it to be so. That's important because Naruto has repeatedly shown weapons become stronger depending on the person holding them. A kunai thrown by Academy student Naruto is not doing the same level of damage as a kunai thrown by adult 6-pass Naruto. It's not happening. That's why Genma's toothpick was able to block a weapon thrown by an elite Jonin from the Sand Village when he fought against Baki. The toothpick used as a weapon scaled directly to Genma. Ten Tails Jinchuuriki Hagoromo would have been a goon with the Suiigu, and yet somehow that's arguably not even his most broken weapon, because the 5 sacred treasure tools of the Sage of Six Paths also exist. Most people remember Ginkaku and Kinkaku using them during the 4th Ninja War and go, okay, big deal, 10-10 level, Dari level. Very few people stop to think about what those weapons could have looked like in Hagoromo's hands. Despite it being stated, using these tools requires large amounts of chakra just to use them once, let alone to use them repeatedly. 10-10 waved that fan a couple times and she needed a break. In fact, the wrong user taking control of those weapons will die. The only reason the Gold and Silver brothers could wield them is because they inherited diluted traces of the Sage of Six Paths DNA through his bloodline and gained even more abnormal virality after surviving inside of Kurama's stomach and possessing small bits of Kurama's chakra. That's ridiculous, the chakra requirement was, and now remember that those limitations don't apply to Hagoromo. He has more than enough chakra to use something like the 7 Stars blade. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary sword, but instead of simply cutting flesh like a normal sword, it severs the word soul. Most ninja fight by targeting your body. Maybe they use genjutsu and target your mind. Hagoromo had weapons that targeted the concept tied to your existence, but the sword by itself isn't actually the dangerous part, because once your word soul has been exposed, that's when everything starts falling apart. The reason being is the rope of clarity likely gets used in conjunction with it. On paper, it sounds very underwhelming. It's a rope, congratulations. Somebody rated Ninja Home Depot and called it a legendary ninja tool. Pretty sure one of my high school ex-girlfriend's moms had a rope of clarity next to the white hood in her bedroom. Jokes aside though, this isn't an ordinary rope. The moment it makes contact with somebody, it can pull out their kododama, also known as their word soul, due to the belief in Japanese that words hold power. In Naruto, the word soul represents the word a person has spoken more than any other point in their life. The rope of clarity drags out that information into the open, making it visible to the wielder. Now the 7 Stars blade comes back into the picture. Once the rope of clarity has extracted the target's word soul, the 7 Stars blade can sever it, revealing the victim's most frequently spoken word. By itself, that's strange, but used in conjunction is terrifying. That's the beauty of these weapons. On their own, they are legendary, but working together, they become nightmare fuel that keeps you up longer than Tobirama when somebody told him that the Uchiha clan got equal rights. Look at this duo. The rope of clarity sets up the 7 Stars blade, and the Crimson Gourd then comes into play. Once the rope of clarity has extracted the word soul and the 7 Star blade has cut it, the Crimson Gourd records it. From that moment onward, the victim is effectively playing a game that they don't even realize they're trapped inside of. If they say a word, accidentally say a variation of that word, or they stay silent for too long, they're sealed. Literally, silence can get you in prison forever unless the user decides they want to just let you out. A theme should be forming in your mind about how Hagoromo's arsenal works now, and it should be scary because these are just the weapons and we haven't even touched on his power, meaning in the hands of someone like Hagoromo, the Amber Purification Jar is going to basically one-shot you. Unlike the Crimson Gourd, this one doesn't need nearly as much setup. Instead, the condition is almost laughably simple. The wielder calls your name, you answer, and you're sealed. The battle is over without a punch being thrown. And think about how second nature it is for someone to reply when you call out their name. Now imagine someone weaponizes it against you and your overall power is basically useless. Even tail beasts have been sealed away by this thing, like when the 3rd Raikage sealed away the rampaging 8 Tails. During the 4th Great Ninja War, Darui used it to seal Kinkaku, and while the 3rd Raikage did previously use it to seal the 8 Tails, whenever it rampaged, I want you to think about what Hagoromo could do with it. Comparing the modern day uses of these tools to what Hagoromo could do with it is like trying to judge how dangerous a Formula 1 racing car is when it's driving through a school zone. You aren't even seeing 1/10 of what it's capable of because the weapons scale to the user. With the Bashosen fan, it looks like like a normal gaudy fan, but it too is broken because it takes a page out of the Yada mirror that Itachi has, which makes it a hard counter to your elemental ninjutsu. Whereas the Yada mirror will change its property to a superior chakra nature of whatever it is you're using, this fan allows the user the ability to use any of the 5 chakra natures for offense when wielding the blade. All it takes is a mental command, and someone who doesn't have water release can use it to counter whoever is using fire release. It's no wonder that it became known as the legendary ultimate ninja tool. And yet, despite that, there's still one final weapon that perfectly summarizes why Hagoromo stood above almost everyone else in shinobi history. Because unlike the treasures that relied on conditions or sealing, unlike the Suiigu, which could be used for extinction, this sword represented divine power itself. The sword in question is the Sword of the Divine, or the Divine Sword, depending on the translation you get in the manga, the very same sword that Obito used against Naruto and Sasuke. Unlike the 5 treasured tools, this wasn't an artifact that Hagoromo simply carried around. He created it himself by using the truth-seeking orbs. So instead of being a traditional weapon, it's an extension of 6-pass power that one gets when they become a Ten Tails Jinchuuriki, and Obito hypes this thing up as it can destroy the entire world, only for Naruto and Sasuke to break that shit during their battle. And it's not an anti-moment for the sword though. Instead, that moment upscaled Hagoromo because the weapon scales to the user. The user determines the ceiling of the weapon. Obito wielded the sword while still in the process of fully controlling the Ten Tails power, which he had just gotten, and even after being a stabilized Jubi Obito, when you read that fight, it really feels as if Obito's still trying to figure some stuff out, and he is mentally conflicted as well. Another video for another day. Hagoromo, on the other hand, he was the origin of that power. He mastered 6-pass senjutsu. He became the first Ten Tails Jinchuuriki for shinobi. He understood chakra better than anyone who came after him, and he possessed centuries of experience that went well beyond anything that Obito ever had. But here's the thing. Even if you took away every single one of those weapons away, Hagoromo would still be one of the strongest characters in Naruto history. Yes, he does outright say that Kaguya is stronger than him in the manga when he is asked by Naruto who's stronger, and Hagoromo says Mother was unrivaled by none other. Yes, he says in the manga that one Rinnegan Jubi Madara was approaching his level of power, but it doesn't change that he's one of the strongest characters in the verse. But the reason we started off with all those weapons is those weapons make it possible for him to fight against people that are tiers above him. Before touching a single legendary artifact, Hagoromo already possessed chakra reserves that bordered on being absurd. As Kaguya's son, he inherited immense natural power, and after becoming the first Jinchuuriki of the Ten Tails after Kaguya was defeated, those reserves exploded to a level few characters could even comprehend. He mastered all 5 basic chakra natures. He is a master of yin-yang release to a point that he has the creation of all things jutsu, able to split the Ten Tails into 9-tailed beasts, though he did it with nothing more than imagination and chakra. Basically, I got bored and I did some shit. He learned Sage Mode at almost an unbelievable pace if we take the anime continuity of the story into account. Those truth-seeking orbs are already among some of the most broken abilities in the franchise. They're comprised of every basic chakra nature combined with yin-yang release and 6-pass chakra, allowing them to erase most ninjutsu on contact while reshaping any form that Hagoromo desired. And if you don't have 6-pass chakra and they touch you, well, bad things will happen to you. You need a sword, you need projectiles, or a shield. Those orbs can do all of that. On top of that, the fact that he was capable of sealing Ten Tails into his body means that he was very proficient with sealing jutsu as well. Imagine fighting someone with Ten Tails Jinchuuriki levels of chakra and all those weapons and all those hacks, and then you realize he's got a Rinnegan that he can bust out at any point in time to use the basic 6-pass Rinnegan jutsu that fans like to refer to as being the 6-pass of pain jutsu. And if you take the anime version of the story into account, he also has a Mangekyo Sharingan, which means that like Madara, he could switch back and forth between the two if he wanted to, which means there's an unnamed Mangekyo Sharingan power that Hagoromo has. There's a reason why when people tell the tales of the Sage of 6 Paths in the universe, he sounds like a fairy tale. Sure, there are those who are stronger than him, basically anyone above Kaguya level, but when you add in all the various tools that he has, the Sage of 6 Paths goes from creepy old man floating in a pile of space boogers to being the last person you ever want to fight in a fight if he ever has all those tools. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, click here on the left or click here on the right to check out this video that YouTube says you would definitely enjoy watching.